In recent events, Niger has been caught in a whirlwind of political turmoil, as the Presidential Guard under General Abdourahmane Tishani seized control of the state broadcaster, locked up President Bazoum, and declared themselves the new transitional government. However, holding on to power might prove to be a greater challenge. While the army has expressed support for the coup to prevent further bloodshed, public sentiment on the streets of Niger remains divided. Interestingly, President Bazoum remains active on social media, yet his exact whereabouts remain unknown, with his captors warning of potential bloodshed if extraction attempts are made. This latest coup adds Niger to a list of countries on Africa's instability belt, which includes Burkina Faso, Mali, Chad, and Sudan, a reality posing a significant threat to the entire continent. The international arena remains alert, with the United States and France, who have troops in Niger, closely watching the developments. Moreover, Russia, known to have ties with Niger and a noticeable presence on its streets, is another key player. The nation previously enlisted Russia's Wagner Group to combat Islamic extremists, making the situation a complex chessboard of regional and international dynamics. As we delve deeper into this matter, we will explore the background of the current situation, the response from the military and civilians, and Niger's economy, along with the global implications of this coup. Let's dive in. Niger is embroiled in political upheaval, with General Abdourahmane Tishani, the head of the Presidential Guard, declaring himself the leader of a transitional government named the National Council for the Safeguard of the Homeland. The move sparked international backlash, with organizations such as the African Union and the Economic Community of Western African States condemning the military coup. Under the threat of force and other sanctions, ECOWAS has given the coup leaders a week to restore power to civilian President Mohamed Bazoum, who was democratically elected in Niger's first peaceful transfer of power in 2021. Immediate measures taken by ECOWAS include closing borders between Niger and ECOWAS countries, instating a no-fly zone, freezing Niger's assets, and imposing a travel ban on the coup participants. This crisis is the latest in Niger's history of coups, with 5 successful military overthrows since independence from France in 1960. However, Niger has been enjoying relative stability under Bazoum's administration, with notable advancements in education, public health, security, and economic growth compared to neighbors such as Mali and Burkina Faso. The coup is primarily justified by Tishani on the basis of President Bazoum's alleged failure to address violent Islamist extremism in the region. However, recent reports suggest that despite an increase in violent incidents in Niger, deaths from extremism have halved. The uncertainty of the situation is intensified by the lack of universal military support for Tishani, the swift condemnation by the international community, and violent suppression of civilian protests. The complex dynamics of Niger's political scene, intermingled with a tradition of military rule and a tumultuous security situation, make for an unpredictable resolution of the current crisis. The outcome may hinge on the concerted action by international powers such as ECOWAS and the African Union, as well as domestic actors like President Bazoum, who remains resistant to Tishani's power grab. Reinstating civilian rule would not only uphold Niger's democratic integrity, but also potentially curtail the recent spate of military rule ascension in Africa. So let's talk about the response from both the neighboring countries, the military, and civilians. Again, the ECOWAS bloc, which is comprised of 15 nations, is leading the charge, imposing economic sanctions on Niger and threatening the use of force if the ousted president, Mohamed Bazoum, is not reinstated within a week.
In the event the authorities' demands are not met within 1 week, take all measures necessary to restore constitutional order in the Republic of Niger. Such measures may include the use of force.
In retaliation to the coup, civilians in Niger's capital, Niamey, attacked the French embassy, burning flags and causing fires at the embassy's walls, symbolizing their strong discontent towards foreign involvement in Niger's affairs. Internationally, the United States, the United Nations, the African Union, the European Union, and France have all condemned the coup and refused to recognize the new leadership. There are also several reports coming from the rebels that France is considering airstrikes on the rebels themselves. So let's briefly touch on Niger's economy. Niger's economy is small in global terms and largely dependent on subsistence agriculture, uranium export, and significant foreign aid. Despite being the world's 7th largest uranium producer, it pales in comparison to countries like Canada, the US, and Kazakhstan. Its uranium production, albeit significant, has not translated into substantial economic growth or stability due to the commodity's price volatility and the nation's high dependence on external markets. Niger is heavily reliant on Nigeria for trade, with almost 90% of its imports coming from its southern neighbor. This dependency underscores the vulnerability of Niger's economy to shocks in the Nigerian market and the broader Western African region. It's hard to imagine how this economy can function after these recent sanctions have been put in place. The deep dive, which often focuses on Canadian junior stocks, saw one particular name get slammed: Global Atomic Corporation, who has uranium assets in Niger. The stock is down roughly 35% since the coup began. So what does the impact look like for the rest of the world? Well, the coup in Niger has far-reaching global implications. As the last democratic stronghold in the Sahel region, Niger's transition to military rule symbolizes a significant setback for democracy, raising concerns about political governance and human rights in the region. Furthermore, reports of the Wagner Group offering to collaborate with the new military regime evokes memories of human rights abuses associated with their involvement in Mali. There are significant worries that this new leadership could disrupt international counter-terrorism efforts and that the instability might be exploited by various terrorist groups, compromising regional security. So let's wrap it up. Overall, what's happening in Niger hasn't really been made into that big of a global story. Normally, when I sit down to do these videos, I've got thousands of articles to read and a ton of videos to look at on YouTube. But in this case here, I'm mostly relying on state-sponsored media such as the BBC and the CBC, who seem to be the only ones covering this story, and not too much fanfare, I'm going to add. Perhaps it's because it's seen as just another African coup for a country that isn't particularly that strong economically. But this whole episode does have stability implications for the Sahel region of Africa. You know, every time I hear about a coup in Africa, I can't help but think of that scene in the movie Blood Diamond.
It's a shame. Not really. Peace Corps types only stay around long enough to realize they're not helping anyone. Government only wants to stay in power until they've stolen enough to go into exile somewhere else. And the rebels, they're not sure they want to take over, otherwise they'd have to govern this mess. But TIA, right, Mid?
TIA.
What's TIA?
This is Africa, huh?
The Wagner Group should have more pressing issues than meddling in a country's affairs who has just a GDP of $15 billion. To put that into perspective, that's less than 1% of the size of Canada or Russia's economies. The geopolitical impacts of the West losing troops in the Sahel region are really what's at play here. And if France and the US walk away, it will only lead to more instability for Africa as a whole, which as an armchair geopolitical analyst, I see as an unlikely scenario. But then again, TIA, right? All right, everybody, thank you for watching. If you could do me a big favor, please hit that like button, ring the notification bell. All that engagement helps us with the algorithm. We're trying to grow this channel. We're working really hard to deliver you guys great content, and I hope you're enjoying it. All right, everyone, thank you for watching. So guys, we just recently launched this channel and we noticed that 99.9% of our viewers are not subscribed. So if you enjoyed this video, we need your help in growing this channel. By subscribing, that would help us keep the lights on and make sure that our crews have jobs in these uncertain times. So please hit that subscribe button and we promise to make more quality videos that I'm sure you're going to love.